I'm Jacopo Scita. I am Al-Sabah doctoral fellow and PhD candidate at Durham University at the School of Government and International Affairs of Durham University. And right now I'm doing a PhD on Iran and China relations, but I guess we will talk a little bit more about this in a minute.
Yes, let's do that. That's a very interesting topic, very topical as well, especially with what's going on at the moment. And so Iran and China is your main focus, but do you have any other research interests exactly?
Yeah, so basically my PhD is on Iran-China relations specifically, but I'm very much interested in what China is doing in the Persian Gulf. So both relations to with, I used to say with both sides of the Persian Gulf. So what it's doing with the Arab monarchies and with Iran. And but you know, before coming to, because I really started working on this with my PhD. Before that, I was very much interested in Iranian foreign policy, with particular reference to some sort of constructivist understanding of Iranian foreign policy. I wrote a little bit and I researched a little bit on the concept of resistance, and down this concept, you know, work in the context of Iranian foreign policy. And so, but I would say that progressively, my focus has been much more on Iran. Even if I started with a background in IR and Middle East in general, but I start focusing on Iran, and I become very passionate and interested in Iran. Basically.
Very interesting. Okay, and so your PhD, what is it actually? What is the topic of your PhD exactly, and what led you to it as well?
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting question. So the topic is basically trying to understand what is the role that China has developed vis-a-vis Iran from the 1979 revolution, so to the I would say the 2015, so the approval of the JCPOA. Right. So basically, the idea is to look how the role. So I'm using this theory, which is called role theory of international relations, which is some sort of between constructivism, foreign policy analysis, and trying to understand how China basically presented itself vis-a-vis Iran, and how they built this relationship. What are the let's say the material elements beyond this relationship, but also what are all the conceptual and the ideational framework behind this relationship? Because of course it's a very interesting, at least from my perspective, relationship, because we are talking about two countries that have a specific view of the international system, that share some ideas, some sort of you know, anger to an extent towards how the system be shaped by the West, and they are somehow revisionist. There are overlapping narratives, overlapping ideas of some sort of humiliation by the Western powers. So there are a lot of ideational overlap. But of course, the interesting issue is how this overlaps in terms of ideological or ideational framework play with the reality on the ground, which of course is mediated by the fact that China is an emerging power, that China is having good relationship with Saudi Arabia, for example. China has to manage this competition / confrontation with the United States. So the puzzle is quite complex, to be honest. And in terms of how I came to this, well, that's an interesting story in a sense that I remember when I started my BA back in the days, and when I was at SOAS, that basically everyone was talking about the Belt and Road Initiative, and especially what China was doing in Africa. So there was this huge hype about China and Africa, this new sort of neo-colonialism, China going to Africa with all this development plan, which were not clear, how the step trap was working. Well, and at some point I asked myself, because I was very interested in the Middle East, basically. So my focus was not Africa, was not China, was the Middle East. And at some point I asked myself, so, okay, China is clearly doing quite a lot in Africa, but what is China doing in the Middle East? Which is quite a, you know, has always been a contested region. Is a region where, you know, China clearly has some interest because of oil. So, and they started researching, and I noted that there was not much hype about what China was doing in the Middle East 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so because I was already interested in Iran, I started to see, okay, what's going on between China and Iran specifically. And I found one book, which is basically the Bible for us that are working on China Iran, which is called China Iran Ancient Partners in a Post-Imperial World by John Garver. It's a fantastic book. It's an absolutely fantastic book. But the fact is that that book was written and published in 2006. So I felt, okay, there are at least 10 years at the time that have not been covered by this. And actually are 10 very interesting years. Because of course, in China, we got Xi Jinping coming to power. So this whole new factor in China foreign policy. And we got the JCPOA. We got a lot of going on with Iran also. So I'd say, okay, why not start thinking and researching on that? And it proved to be quite the hype at some point came out, and
absolutely.
It became quite on the news, especially in the last few years. So
yeah,
that's
definitely. No, it's very topical, and it's great because you're able to sort of capture the now and look at what's happening now, but still have a historical perspective of it on it. Yeah, that's incredible. And what has been your main surprises and challenges studying Iran specifically, but this topic more generally?
Well, of course, in terms of surprises, is always the amount of prejudice that exists about Iran specifically. When you even from people that are, I would say even from scholars or journalists or people that claim to know or to talk about Iran, if you start researching seriously, if you start researching in a quite accurate way and go beyond the headlines, you see that most of the time is the country and the political, sociological dynamics, economic dynamics within the country are always portrayed in this, how can I say that, in a very amateurish or full of prejudice
stereotypes
way.
Prevail.
Stereotypes, exactly. They do prevail. And unfortunately, I would say that I've seen this probably because of political reasons, which are of course central when in the discourse towards Iran, especially in certain kind of Western discourse. They are very much impacting the discourse about Iran. So it's always hard to find, at least for general news and general media, general coverage of Iran, with something that goes beyond the stereotypes, this prejudice that you perceive. So I was very much surprised about that, and there was kind of something, and I think that was something that made me even more interested in Iran, because I would say, okay, let's try to let's try to understand what's really going on and try to tell the world somehow with this maybe exaggerate idea of trying to say something something different, something. So that was what surprised me. In terms of the challenges, of course, there are a lot, in a sense that, as you said, of course, there's an historical aspect in my thesis, but it's not central, in a sense that the historical serves the understanding of current dynamics, basically. And of course, the issue is that getting access to sources, to primary sources, to people when it comes to Iran and China at the same time, because the other side is not easier to an extent, or probably is even more complex than. So it's definitely not easy to approach people. By people, I mean, of course, elites and so on, and try to all document, policymakers, and try to get access to document, especially because I'll have to tell you this. So originally, as probably happens to everyone, my PhD proposal was slightly different. And my idea was, exactly. I think it happens to everyone. So my original proposal was about the Chinese role in the JCPOA. So specific on that issue. And when I started talking with my supervisor and other people, more senior people, and they said, okay, that's very interesting, but you cannot have access to all this kind of documents, let alone the issue with the languages and so on. You don't speak Chinese. So, but the fact is that, of course, you're talking about a very sensitive topic with two countries that are so jealous of the, of the strategic posture of the moves and so on. So I would say that's the main challenge. So getting access to sources and people that can, but at the same time is a challenge. So as its own positive aspect, because every bit you get access to is somehow a win. It's something that makes you so proud. So,
that's true. That's true. No, it's incredible. It's an exciting field that you're in, I think, and I look forward to seeing you through your PhD and seeing hopefully a book one day as well.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. No, it's very important work. And thank you for answering all the questions. But sort of to finish, I was wondering whether you'd like to stay in academia, and if you have other plans, or you're open to different fields, because in a way what you're doing is also policy. So
yeah, exactly. So I would say that when I started thinking about doing a PhD, my dream was academia. So I was fascinated by this. I'm always fascinated by the offices of professor, where you get into you see this thousands of books,
true.
And you say, okay, that's a dream place,
it's very romantic.
At that point. Exactly. I've written all that books and make my office with all the books I've written. So that was basically the idea. Going on, and I would say starting, as you said, the fact that my topic, my research is going a little bit towards policy making, policy, consulting, and so on. I'm quite fascinated also by that aspect, in a sense that it's very interesting when you are able to talk with policymakers, to interact with them, which is quite fascinating, and it's a little bit more interactive to an extent. It's less you with your books and your writing, is more talking with people. So I would say at the moment I'm quite open, and in a sense that I would say, well, which opportunities come and then catch whatever happened, basically.
Absolutely. So, no. Either way, I think your work will make an impact in some way or another.
Well, yeah, that's the hope, at least. But academia is always there, in a sense. It's always fascinating.
That's very true. Jacopo, thank you so much for sharing your very interesting research topic and your PhD. So all the best with the rest of your research, and we'll keep this conversation going.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Marina, for inviting me. And I would say your project, the Iranian Studies Collective, is so cool. So fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.